to the discussion around the dividend policy of the peers of our company under consideration. So, if you remember in the previous section, we have already seen that in assessing any company's dividend policy, it's important to understand how much dividend the company paid versus how much they could have paid, which is basically the dividend plus any buyback that the firm may have done versus the free cash flow to equity, which is the potential dividend that could have been paid by the firm. And we try and gauge as to what this number is versus the FCFE that the company has shown. And then try and figure out if the company has paid lesser than the FCFE, they must be reinvesting. If they are reinvesting, we try and compare the ROE versus the cost of equity and see if the company is generating value for shareholders over that period, right? Now, let's say we do this and we find out that's all fine. Sometimes we get this data, sometimes we may not get this data. Even if we get the data, it may not necessarily give us complete information in the context of our requirement. So we may want to kind of look at, what's the peer group doing? What are peer companies or peer group paying in terms of dividend, because that will tell us a little bit about the industry and what kind of reinvestment is available in the industry. So in the absence of anything, the best place is to be at a dividend number which is close to what your closest competition is paying, because that would have done in a sense what kind of risk analysis is needed. This, remember, is not the ideal scenario. It's only in the absence of anything else that you are saying that, okay, I'll look at the competition and see what they are doing and then try and gauge whether my firm is doing something similar or not, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at CEAT tires and we're going to look at MRF, and we're going to try and check what kind of FCFE they had and what kind of dividend they have paid. We'll also try and calculate what is their dividend payout ratio and what is their overall numbers in terms of the data that we see in terms of FCFE versus the dividend that is there, right? So let's begin. Let's start with these one by one. We will go back to our Excel file and start working with MRF first and then put in the numbers for CEAT. So that's our Excel file, and we're going to look at, let's say, MRF tires as the first data point. And the message in terms of what kind of information we have, let's try and identify if we can reach the financial statements directly and try and see. So here we go. So there is a financial statement that is available for MRF, consolidated balance sheet. One interesting thing we will have to note is that this is as on 31st March 2016, but if we go on the right and we look at the previous one, that's on 30th of September 2014. So interestingly, they have changed the accounting year. And so this data that we see here, wherever it is periodic, is for 18 months. And this data is for 12 months. So we have to be careful in looking at data like profit, etc., because the data might be for 18 months and hence we have to be careful looking at that number, right? So that's something that we have to be assessing carefully when we look at that, and we'll take care of that. Let's plug in the numbers that we see here in terms of our Excel file. We'll need the long-term borrowings data. This is in rupees crore, remember, so 1485 and 1198. So we can put in the long-term debt as 1485 and 1198, and in the case of MRF, let's write this as 2014 so that we understand that there is an 18-month period here. So we can put 18 months here so that that information does not get lost anywhere. We have that information with us, right? Current liabilities. So current liabilities are at 2895 here. So that's 2895. And we have 2623. We have 2623 here. Current assets less cash. So we're going to remove cash and we're going to remove current investments from here. So that's 6057 equals to 6057 minus We're going to subtract 1855 and we're going to subtract